Okay, last thing, and guess what? We're done with trigonometry. So, I apologize for this first part because what I want to do is I want to show you why it works this way. And I know it's not going to be the most fun thing in the world, and just try and keep track of everything. I tried to color code this. So here's what's happening. We have two numbers in polar form and we're supposed to multiply them. Okay, so we are going to take and multiply this one times this one. Okay, now we can multiply in any order. We can take this and multiply it times this, multiply it times this, multiply it times this. And since I can multiply in any order, I'm going to take these two out in front. So we have R1 times R2 times, then we'll multiply it times the cosine of theta 1 plus I sine theta 1 times the cosine theta 2 plus I sine theta 2. All right, then for the fun part, I am going to take, and I have to take everything in here and multiply it times everything in there. So let's see, we still have R1, we still have R2. Now I'm just going to go like this, cosine of theta 1 times the cosine of theta 2 plus, and then I have cosine theta 1 times the I sine theta 2, right? Then it's going to be plus, take everything here, this one, and I have to take it times both of those. So now I have I sine theta 1 times the first thing, cosine theta 2, plus, then I have I sine theta 1 times I sine theta 2. Okay? All right. Now, what happens next? Let's rewrite things. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to rewrite things, the ones that don't have I in them. Okay, so that's well, let's see here. How did I do that? Okay, so what does have I in it? This has I and this has I. But if you notice, this is I times I. That's going to be I squared, which would be negative 1. So, again, I know this is confusing. This is kind of crazy. Okay, so now I still have the R1 and the R2. All right, so this is going to be, this first thing is cosine theta 1 and cosine theta 2. And then this next thing, I'm going here, and remember how we had I times I is I squared, and that's minus. So that'll be a minus, and then it says sine theta 1 and sine theta 2. Okay, so that's going to be grouped together, plus, and then these other ones that still have I in them. Okay, so see I have an I there, and I have an I there. So we're going to group those together, and I'm going to put that I out in front, okay? So I'm putting that I out in front, so I'm factoring out the I, and I'm writing what I have left, cosine theta 1 times the sine of theta 2 plus, and then I have the sine of theta 1 times the cosine of theta 2. Okay, now you might be saying, wow, Strom, that just made a big mess. Well, if you remember back to the identities we did in the test 6. Test 6. Okay, remember the identities, the sum formula and the difference formula? Well, if you look at them, you're going to see that this is actually the difference formula for cosine. So that means I can rewrite it. So I've got R1 times R2 times, this is the difference formula for cosine. So I can say that that's cosine of the difference of the angles, so theta 1 minus theta 2, plus, and then I have the I, right? I have the I right there. And then if we look at this one, look at the identities, this is the difference formula. Did I say difference formula? That was the sum formula, sorry. This is the sum formula for sine. So I say sine of the first angle plus the second angle. Okay, so now the question might be, what's the moral of the story here, Strom? This is actually what the rule is for multiplying. So what you do is you're going to multiply your r values. That's the first thing you do. Multiply the two r values. Then, for inside of here, for inside of our argument stuff, to find our new argument, we're going to take the angle of the first one plus the angle of the second one. Angle of the first one, angle of the second one. Let's try one. Let's just, actually not as difficult as I just made it. Okay? So to multiply them, we first start by multiplying our r values. So z1 times z2 is going to equal 16 times the cosine. And then remember, to find my new angle, I have to take those and add them. So let's see here. We got to go 2 pi over 3 plus 11 pi over 6. Okay, I need to get a common denominator. Multiply by 2. So now I get 4 pi over 6 plus 11 pi over 6. Okay, that gives me, what is that, 15 pi over 6. Okay, I need to reduce that. Let's see, 3 goes in there 5, 3 goes into there twice. So that's 5 pi over 2. All right, so 5 pi over 2, we'll just write 5 pi over 2. We'll deal with that later. And then we'll finish plus I sine, and it's still going to add the same thing, so we'll say 5 pi over 2. Okay, now we could stop there. I actually wouldn't mind you continuing going on, so then you can actually figure out what this is in standard form. So then we'll just continue, and we'll say 16. And the cosine of 5 pi over 2, let's see here. Okay, so here's pi over 2, 2 pi over 2, 3 pi over 2, 4 pi over 2, 5 pi over 2. All right, so what's the cosine there? Cosine is the x value. The x value is 0 plus I, the sine, that's the y value there. The y value is 1. So now I have 16 times 0 is 0. 16 times I is 16i. And that's how you multiply. Once again, you're going to take the r values and multiply them. And you're going to take the angles and add them. Put them in there. The r values multiplied, the angles added. And then just go through and turn it into standard form. Now I won't do the same thing to you for division. Is all you have to learn for division is when you're dividing, you're going to divide the r values. And then for inside, for the angles, you'll subtract the angles. And I'm not going to go through the proof for that. But let's try an example. Okay, so here, if I want to take z1 divided by z2, we divide, so 24 divided by 8. And then we're going to take the cosine. And 300 minus 75 is 225. So this is going to be cosine of 225 degrees. Plus I times the sine of 225 degrees. So then we continue on. We're going to get 24 divided by 8 is 3. Now the cosine of 225 degrees, 225, that is going to be after 180. That's right there. So the cosine is negative root 2 over 2. Plus I times the sine of that is negative root 2 over 2. So we are now in the point where we need to multiply through by 3. So when we multiply by 3, we get negative 3 square root of 2 over 2 plus I times, well, let's wait now. Do you see that negative there? I want to put that right there. So let me erase this plus sign. I'm going to put the minus in there. Think ahead here. Okay, and then 3 square roots of 2 over 2. And that would be your answer for that one. You could write the I at the end. It'd be a little bit more conventional, but that would be your answer for that one. And that's dividing trig form. All right, good luck.